Hey guys, what's going on? It's Kodiak here, raid leader for Exiled Power, and if you're anything like me or any of the members of Exiled Power, you know that Monday night is your night to get your plus 10 Mythic Plus dungeon done and out of the way so that you're getting that saucy new chest tomorrow on Tuesday, the start of a raid week. And there's a lot of changes coming to Mythic Plus Dungeons, guys. In patch 7.2.5, the team at Blizzard is really flipping Mythic Plus Dungeons on its head. Now, one of their main complaints with the Mythic Plus Dungeon situation was the depletion mechanic that was part of the kind of like failure mechanism for the dungeon. And I do agree with them. This really was more of an annoyance than anything else. You get a salty group and or player disconnects and you're all of a sudden out a Keystone or and just wasted 30 minutes of your time. So they're changing that quite a bit, and the changes that they're making are actually pretty cool. So instead of all of the, just forget about everything you know about Mythic Plus Dungeons for a second and listen to some of the changes. Now, completing the run on time will have pretty much the same results as it does in the current patch. You'll get a new Keystone with a random dungeon that's 1 to 3 levels higher than the one you just completed. Now, this is still based on how quickly you finish it, so no big deal there. If you don't complete the dungeon, if you don't complete it at all, you actually get a Keystone of the same dungeon, just 1 level lower. And this is kind of the new system that they're putting in place, because if you do complete the dungeon but don't make the timer, you get a Keystone for a random other dungeon that's 1 level lower. So there's 2 different ways here. If you fail because you just couldn't complete it, you're going to get that same dungeon, just 1 level lower. And if you complete the dungeon but not in time, you get a Keystone for another random dungeon that's just 1 level lower. Now, these changes are really put in place to kind of keep the week moving forward, keep raiders and dungeoneers going forward in the Mythic Plus grind or adventure, whatever you want to call it. That way you're not sitting on a depleted Keystone. You don't really feel like you have any desire to put work into that, because there's really no point, because it's depleted. You have to get it back up and then you have to run again just to get any sort of benefits out of it. So that's kind of where they're going with that. Now, one of the other major changes they're making to the Mythic Plus system is that the reward system at the end of the dungeon is being completely revamped. Now, you're no longer going to receive additional chests at the end of the run for completing it quickly. No more 2 chests, no more 3 chests. Now, when you finish a Mythic Plus dungeon, the chest at the end will contain 2 items, and that is going to range between all of your members, not just 2 items per person, 2 items for the entire team. It also is going to include the appropriate amount of artifact power. Now, if you do beat the timer, regardless of how quickly you do it, there will be a 3rd item in the chest. Now, 3 items split between your entire team. Keystones will still upgrade by 2 or 3 steps based on how quickly you can get through that dungeon. So what that means, guys, let's break that down. There is no more 2 chesting and 3 chesting in terms of loot. 2 chest and 3 chest is in the past. It's part of the old mentality, and now we have to wrap our heads around the new mentality. The whole point of this now is to push yourself. How far can you go in a week? Because the loot that's going to be in those chests, it may be good, but it is split across your entire group, and this is going to be an issue for people who are doing Mythic Pluses for the gear. Now, this may be a good time to talk about Mythic Pluses as a whole. If you're anything like Exiled Power, you've probably noticed that a lot less people are doing them. And that's because the gear and the Titan Forging system and pretty much everything that we were striving for in Mythic Pluses, AP, gear, the weekly chests, it's just really not that important anymore. Obviously, people have gotten a ton of legendaries, so that kind of draw is also gone. So that's 4 major factors that are gone from the Mythic Plus scene. And that's not a good thing, because Mythic Plus Dungeons was the one thing in the game that really was keeping people logging in, doing content with their guildies. And even in Exile Power, we're still going strong in the raid scene. We're 8 of 10 Mythic, working on Elisand. But that doesn't mean really much outside of the raid time, right? We still need people coming on, doing raids, doing other dungeons, things like that. And with the Mythic Plus system right now, there is no desire to farm that artifact power. Obviously, everybody wants to maximize their weapon, but with the new expansion to the artifacts, you get to a point where kind of the effort that you put in is just not worth it. You can just wait for a couple more artifact knowledges and rest on your laurels, as they say. So the changes to the Mythic Plus scene are really to incentivize groups to take on dungeons, knowing that they're probably not going to get gear, but instead preferring to push themselves into, plus 15s, plus 20s, whatever your fancy. Now, as soon as the Tomb of Sargeras comes out, a lot of things are going to change. And Mythic Plus dungeons, I don't know how long they will be a factor, considering that the gear in Tomb of Sargeras is far going to outweigh what we saw in, obviously, Nighthold and the Emerald Nightmare, and even in these Mythic Plus dungeons, until you really get up to those, Mythic Plus 15s, Mythic Plus 20s, which not everybody could do. So there are going to be the top-end players that really find these changes to be more of a nail in the coffin than anything else. If you do the Mythic Plus dungeons and you want to push yourself and like that challenge, then by all means, this is the change for you. But if you're somebody that really was just doing it for, the AP or the grind or whatever, you're going to feel even less incentivized to do it. There's not as much loot. The chance of you getting loot is not even there. Obviously, AP is still a thing, but, that's also not a huge deal. Now, there is no discussion of legendaries in the chest. Obviously, opening up 3 chests always seemed to give you a higher percentage chance of getting legendaries. Now, with just 1 chest, I don't know what that means. Does that mean that the percentage of you getting a legendary is going to be elevated in that 1 chest? Or does that mean that you're only going to have, 1 shot at it, and that shot is the exact same percentage as if you were opening one of the 3 chests in the current iteration of Mythic Plus dungeons? So there are a lot of changes coming to this system, but it really depends on how you look at Mythic Pluses. If you want to push yourself, or if you really are just feeling that the Mythic Plus thing is over for you. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about the changes coming to the dungeon scene in 7.2.5. Will they still be viable, or are they going to fall flat on their face? Leave us a comment below. Hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and subscribe. We got plenty more content coming your way. But for now, guys, my name is Kodiak, raid leader for Exiled Power, and we will see you next time.